All right, well, welcome back to MVP Real Estate Podcast, Season 3, Episode 7. We've got Nicholas back with us. I'm sorry, I all of a sudden got some congestion going on this morning. I was just sick 3 weeks ago and it's back. But we have a lot of updates. We've got book updates. We've got home repair updates. We probably have more updates that we got, but that's just what we talked about before we started recording the episode. But
somebody from France listened to our podcast yesterday.
We're getting even more international now. Yeah, we just hit 1,000.
Yep.
I believe.
Yep.
Which is sweet. But welcome back. Thanks for the time. How did your week go?
Well, thank you guys for having me back. It's great to see you both again. The week was interesting. So shout out to the folks from France. I actually noticed that one person in France has read my book. So there's little pockets of international audiences running around. I finished the second in my series this week, the draft of it at least. So only a few frantic months of revisions to go on that. And then I spent a good portion of time in the attic dealing with wiring and old work versus new work boxes and all kinds of fun stuff. So it's been a fun week.
It's awesome. I'm sure you're ready for it to be the weekend. Although your weekends don't really get mellow with 3 kids. So
yeah, it's a different type of work on the weekend for sure. I have 2 birthday parties, a baseball game, and then various other household chores on the docket. So my to-do list is not actually any shorter on the weekends, but
hopefully it's a little bit better paced, not as hectic.
Honestly, keeping the pacing relatively steady is key. I'm not really good with the whole surge recover thing.
Neither am I. And especially on personal time. Personal time, I definitely take my time because my other weekday is always kind of regimented.
I'm 100% opposite of both of you. They call me Hurricane Tots because I can't.
There's no relax. There's no, I guess, neutral.
Well,
for you, you're just always in drive.
What did I just finish doing in my house? Come on, there's no off button.
That's true. That's true. We'll find one eventually.
Maybe.
Well, Nick, let's jump into your book. I want to hit that first. So okay. Number 2 is in draft, you said?
Yes. So I just finished the draft yesterday. The first book finished, came out to about 50,000 words, and that was due to some monetary constraints. Anytime you're starting a business, you can only invest, so much in that. But the second book is already 80,000 words. It'll probably be longer when it's done because I am less constrained by the word count. So yeah, it's been good. I'm excited.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Can you release the title yet, or is that to be determined?
Yes, actually, the title is called Iron on the Tongue. It's the follow-up to Steel in the Blood, which was the first one. There's a theme you'll see as the titles get released, and I actually have already started the pre-orders, the exclusive Cool Guy Club pre-orders on my website, where you can get a signed hardback first edition. You can get yourself written in as a character if you want to put down a little bit of coin on that.
Cool.
To the next book, all kinds of fun stuff. So,
and just to pull in another show, we just got off a show with someone who's talking about NFTs, and apparently you can tie an NFT to an asset. Natasha, you can't cover your eyes.
I can't do that.
Have you tied these? Have you jumped on the train and tied them to an NFT?
So one of my other side hustles is an NFT project, super secret, can't talk about it. But
all right.
I have looked into potentially doing some NFTs for this piece of the art side. And it turns out that if I mint the NFT, it's really expensive.
However, oh, really?
I can offer other people the chance to mint the NFT for whatever base price it is, 0.01 ETH or whatever it is. And then they'll pay the mint price, but it'll appreciate in value and so on and so forth. So I'm looking into that.
Okay.
It's nice to have the NFT side project because I can just go over to my Discord server and be like, hey guys, what about this? And they'll be like, oh, you're an idiot. You should do this instead. I'm like, thanks.
That those forums, we talked about that for people that are learning to get onto the forums and talk to people who are in it, and they can give you the good advice.
Oh yeah. It's interesting how much crossover there is on the pieces that I'm working on, some of the other aspects of the project to like real world stuff. Like we're talking about how do you design an economy and how do you like work in, use cases for these things, and how do you provide value to people and judge it appropriately and all kinds of stuff. So like there's a lot of crossover, especially into the real estate market where value is often in the in the eye of the beholder. So
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's fascinating. I'm curious to see how that all works out. And with the super secret NFT project, whenever that gets revealed, I'm going to give you a call because I'm interested in what's going on.
sure.
Not a world I dabble in very much, so it's fascinating.
This is a fun one. I can tell you that it's going to be basically community owned. So like we're not taking a whole bunch of profit into it. We're taking the whole mid price of the thing, and we've already got plans for like the entire dollar amount to go back into the community for both making the community money as well as like providing other use cases for it. So
Okay.
it's a little different than some of the other ones where it's like, all right, look at this amazing thing that looks cool. Bye.
See ya.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. I'm excited to hear about that one. Because that world is going to evolve into something that we can't even understand at this point. So I'm excited to see where this all goes.
I mean,
But
real
on
estate
something
on
that
Meta,
you-
right?
Yeah, that's true. Someone asked me if when the meta actually comes to and it's more advanced, would you buy a section of real estate in the metaverse?
Oh yeah.
I didn't have an answer. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like.
I mean, so as with any investment question, like how much money can you afford to lose?
Right.
But like I absolutely would throw down some money on some real estate there. Like, so when I was in I want to say like seventh grade, I don't know, middle school, we did this like westward expansion simulation where they had this big piece of butcher board paper on the wall and it was all gridded out into squares. And you didn't know where the railroad was going to be. You didn't know any of this stuff, but like you could go claim land and then you could buy and sell land. And it was totally a simulation thing. But I feel like that's kind of where we're at with Meta right now, because like you have no idea what's going to be that. Like we don't even know like what's the railroad equivalent. Like how do you know which properties are going to be more expensive than not? So like the one thing about property, especially the way the blockchains are created, is like it will never, like you can't duplicate it, like that house that's on the corner of like Main Street and Airport Road, like that's it, that's that plot of land. So it's an interesting crossover. So
And I'm fascinated with, and I think my reservation in answering like would I buy land, how much is there? Because like in the metaverse, I picture this being a vast, endless amount of space that if we run out, we just create more. And if we run out of that, we just create more. So is that devaluing the property I just bought? Or are we going to set parameters to where like this is as far as it goes?
So I think you're going to see a lot of
That's those parameters though. Like who makes these rules?
right. And so like that's because of the way this is done on the blockchain, and it's not centralized, it's decentralized. So like distributed, the community decides what value is. If there's something that is centrally located to a very popular place to be, you're going to see this tied a lot more towards I guess the cool and hip parts of a town, if I were to take this and put it into the real world analog, as opposed to like, this is where three rivers come together and therefore there's all these natural resources. It's more like, oh yeah, that's Soho. Everybody wants to live in Soho. I think. I've never been in New York. But
okay, so here's what somebody said to me the other day when we were talking about NFTs and this whole like metaverse thing. They're like, so basically what you're saying is we're bringing the Sims to real life and we're buying stuff like through the Sims. And I said that's kind of what it sounds like to me. I don't know. This like totally goes over my entire brain. Like it makes my brain explode.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. It is Sims where you use like real life. I mean, but you buy things in Sims with human dollars, like real world dollars. You pump into the game. It's just no longer a game.
You don't have to though, but you don't have to.
Yeah. I know. I'm waiting for it to get a little bit more fleshed out so that I can see what we're actually looking at.
I feel like I'm the Debbie Downer, but it doesn't register in my brain.
Can I just steal like 3 minutes and like, can you humor me just real quick?
Yeah, do it.
Absolutely.
Do you all have like a pen and a piece of paper handy?
I do, in fact. Here's my paper and here is my pen.
Okay, awesome.
Let's
take like a minute and I want you to draw the car of the future. It does not have to be cool looking, like we're not all artists here. I'm certainly not, but like just draw the car of the future. Real quick.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna try not to think of that Tesla truck that he made. Oh man. My son was just watching Bob Ross the other day. So I'm trying to channel my inner Bob Ross.
Oh, I know what I want to do. Okay, I changed my mind.
Get this happy little tree. You just got a mountain behind it.
This is your world. Just create it. Just
it could be literally anything. Like, what is the car of the
happy
future?
Little window.
Mine is literally four lines.
Perfect.
And it's
my pen.
This is why I didn't graduate with my graphic design degree, is because I couldn't pass the actual like drawing classes. But I can make everything else look pretty, but I can't draw.
It works out. All right. Marcus, let me know when you're done.
It's rough, but yeah.
That's okay. Rough is good. We're not talking Van Goghs here. All right. Hold them up real quick. Let me see what you got. Okay. Natasha, talk to me.
I think we're gonna be teleporting, not driving.
Yes.
Ooh, wild card.
Awesome. Right? So we've taken the car-like thing of like getting from point A to point B, and we've like completely reimagined what it looks like, and that's amazing. I've done this with a lot of people, and like very few go right to the teleporters. So congratulations. Marcus, talk to me. What do you got?
So I don't think this is going to be like, I think gas is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will still have like gas cars, but they're going to be what manual cars are now. Like you see them every once in a while. But so
yeah, they're all parked outside of the bingo parlor on like a Sunday.
Yes.
Exactly. So these are not tires. I think it's all going to be like a gravity type thing, like anti-gravity.
Yeah.
So the reason like my back window is open, I think cars will be able to go sideways, like diagonal. And this inspiration is from my son's RC car, because the wheel, like you can actually go right and it just slides right on the floor.
All right. So you got the Minority Report thing going on. Cool.
Yes, basically.
I like it.
You've got like a cockpit up front, but then the back is going to be like rounded, because I think it has to be aerodynamic in all directions.
Cool.
I don't think it's really going to be a flying car, but I don't know.
That's like its whole, 2-hour podcast on that. All right. So here's what I do.
That's engineering.
A tree?
Okay.
It's a palm tree. Yep.
Are you teleporting on top of a palm tree?
No, that's a palm tree. It's got a little guy up top. There's like a steering wheel, and there's like coconuts at the bottom.
I like it.
Right.
So it's like a float, a parade float that you can decorate to whatever you want.
It's an actual tree, like, and it's on a tiny island.
And that's your car.
It's the car of the future. How might that be possible?
No idea.
Right. Well, what if we all commute to work by putting our VR goggles on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And then we have to get somewhere, right? Because like there's so much real estate, it's all been assigned, and like we have our allowed place that we're allowed to port into the metaverse or whatever. And because we, pay for a certain connection level and it's way out in the sticks or something like that, but we still got to go to the place where everybody else is interacting, right? Where all the digital underground is, if you will. So everybody drives whatever they want, whatever they can imagine, right? So what does a parking lot look like in the future then?
I don't know.
It's a forest,
I guess,
right?
yeah.
I mean, couldn't it be, right? So the idea that like the car of the future might be a tree, maybe it's not going to be a literal tree, but like the idea that there might be a metaverse that we all like port into and live in and work in that has its own set of rules that are whatever we say they are, like I think that has a lot of merit to it. And this is just a fun little exercise in like imagining things differently.
Yeah. I mean, there's already people that are full-time in the metaverse. Like they're the ones that log on and keep control, or I guess manage the avatars in the metaverse. So like that's already a thing.
There's people making, sorry, go ahead.
Who's paying them? Like
the people that own the real estate are the ones that are making the money.
So we need to buy metaverse real estate.
Yeah, because then you can rent it out for other people to use and program and do whatever they want, and they pay you a certain rent each month. It's the same. It's like standard assets.
Is that like a server? Like I would be buying these 4 servers, and then you can manipulate those how you want.
So, and first of all, I am not a blockchain wizard or anything like that, but you're not buying the server because the blockchain is like a consensus of everybody who's running on the platform agrees that this is what the blockchain is. And so you're buying a piece of that blockchain. And so you're then renting out that little piece, and it doesn't live on one server, it lives on like all the servers.
Okay.
So, yeah. It's wild.
I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm definitely like I like things the way they are, and I like my patterns, but when something is unique and it's got some legs and like things can grow behind it, even if it's new and it's outside of my comfort zone, I still want to see where it goes.
No,
yeah.
I'm going to put my head underneath my rock and I'm going to stay right there.
I do have, it draws up so many questions though, because, okay, let's say you're in the metaverse and you trespass on somebody's land or you steal something of theirs from the metaverse. Like, are there now metaverse police?
And jails? And
do you have physical world repercussions? Like, where's our delineation? Where's it stop?
The police just seized like $1 billion and change in Ethereum that was stolen, which is internet funny money, right? That like quote unquote doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's already happened.
That's crazy. That's the part that I'm like, okay, how many laws are going to be passed because of this whole thing? Because I'm guessing the founding fathers didn't factor in the metaverse when they were writing. They did not. So we'll see what comes of it.
I'm gonna go find my anchor and like hunker down in it. Just
it's gonna be an interesting couple decades of trying to get this stuff organized.
I think so. It's got a lot of potential too, especially just like imagination, different ideas, but also the idea of decentralized finance. Because I was actually reading a book recently called Economic Science Fictions. Unsurprisingly, science fiction was involved. If you're looking for really entertaining, like gripping storytelling, like pass. It's not that.
Okay.
It does have some good stories in it with like interesting economic questions, and then there's some really interesting essays that are written very dryly. So like just go quickly and pick out the main points. But the takeaway that I got from I just read like the first part of it, I'm still working on it, is that like the idea of money, right? It's a way of communicating value from buyers to suppliers. That's all it is. We no longer have like, this dollar is worth 6 ounces of gold. Like, I think that's too much of gold. I don't know how much gold is an ounce these days, but like we went away from that. And so the idea that you could substitute the dollar with like anything is an interesting concept. And like, again, I'm not an economist, so I don't want to like try and prognosticate on that, but that communication, like money as communication, was an interesting way to look at that.
Yeah. And we're not completely off of gold as our backing, correct? I know there's a push for it to not
No,
back the dollar by gold.
we have a floating dollar, like completely,
Yeah.
as far as I'm tracking. Like
Yeah.
it's not tied to the gold standard at all. It happened in 1980 something. Again, don't quote
Yeah,
me on
that's what I thought I remembered.
it.
So maybe the dollar becomes the backing to this metaverse. Wouldn't that
Right?
be
And
a
that
wild?
now you're like inceptioning this idea of like, we say this is valuable and we're backing this other thing that's communicating value over here. So it's backed by communication. Like, what does that
Yeah.
mean?
And we're only backing to the US dollar. So what does that mean for Canadians or people in Asia, or like they have their own currency? So is there conversion rates in meta dollars?
I mean, so like you can convert anything to anything else, right? That's what like a lot of the big markets do, right? So I think the idea of the way we think about money though is different. Like, you know, if somebody hands you a dollar that says the United States of Ted on it and it's like got their face on it, you're gonna be like, no.
Yeah.
If it has, you know, the seal of the United States of America and like Benjamin's face on it, then like, okay, now we're talking, right?
Yeah.
But what makes that piece of paper any more or less valuable?
People buying into it.
People believing.
Yep.
Exactly. So
Yep.
I don't know. Interesting crossroads.
Yeah. And if the only thing that comes out of it is people getting a little bit more financially literate because they're reading up on the dollar and currency and how it translates in the metaverse, at least they're more financially literate in the real world.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
think that's something that would be an interesting little tidbit to take out of it. So, well, out of the whole aliens and metaverse thing, let's talk about your book. The second one out, what summary or like little sneak peeks can you give us? Little like cliffhanger.
Okay,
on
all
this
right.
thing?
So the first book ended on quite a bit of cliffhangers. There was a lot of the reviews that I got back have been like, okay, like where's the next one? I'm like, don't worry, we're soon. But we open on a whole new character and plot arc that is going to kind of be seeded throughout the book. That brings another viewpoint to the world. I noticed that you know, when I started designing the universe and building all these things into it, and then like thinking about where's the story at and doing all the planning for that, I realized that a lot of it was coming from a top-down kind of viewpoint where there was like a lot of the main characters were those that were in charge, and so they had their view of the universe and their ideas of right and wrong and everything else, and I wanted to really explore what it looked like from the other side. So I can tell you that the new character's plotline is very much from the opposite end of the spectrum. She grew up extremely poor. She's one of the workers on one of the factory planets, and so has a job that's like extremely dangerous and like barely pays anything at all, and she's doing the work for, you know, the next level of the bureaucracy and so on. And she runs into a situation that kind of puts her on a collision course with the powers that be further on down the line. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
I think
And you
it's
said
a good
planets. So she lives on the manufacturing planet. How
One of
many
them.
planets do we have? Okay.
There's 14 planets that the Olsons control and are responsible for, and they're we started the story with them, but there's over 100 different gene lines that control all the different 1,000 planets of the empire. So
Okay.
the
So this stuff wasn't. I'm not a big sci-fi guy, but my son just wanted to watch Boba Fett,
Mhm.
and I watched that, and I'm like, this whole thing is like now a light bulb went off because Boba Fett was so good, and they have the kind of like the same different worlds in different clans that live within each world.
Mhm.
I think it's super cool to think about.
It's a good way to explore a lot of different things that we're kind of struggling with in our society today. And one, I hope this is a fun, exciting story to read. It's adventure, it's got action, it's got a little bit of romance in there, it's got everything, right? But also, like, I tried to really wrestle with some of the things that we're dealing with in society today. So if you want to, you can peel that fun, exciting layer back and be like, well, what is the nature of power? And like, why do we end up believing what we believe? And you can kind of dive into that piece. So
yeah. And I think when you write it in that sci-fi, with the sci-fi glasses on, with colonies or tribes of people that aren't yourself, you kind of take down your defense mechanism and you kind of look at it in a different perspective. Even if the themes are the same, I think allowing your judgment to go down and your defenses to go down, you can look at a system or a culture and be like, okay, well, here are some of the gaps, or here are some of their issues. And then when you start to think about it more, you're like, well, I could see that in our day-to-day with how we operate it.
That is, I couldn't have said it better myself. I really believe in science fiction because it lets us have a chance to experience something that is not us.
Yeah.
It experience what it might be like to live in the future, because we're all going to live in the future eventually. All you got to do is wait, right? But like, what if you could try and experience what that might be like today and use that to inform your decisions, your outlook, all that. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. And when it's going to go to revisions? And you said multiple. So what goes on in those revision meetings? Is that with your publisher?
No, that's just with me. So I owe a pretty solid product. What I'll end up doing is I'll go through probably 3 or 4 revisions just myself, because I tend to I'm a draft horse kind of writer where I'll just, I think I wrote like 20,000 words last week.
Okay.
So just get it all out there, get it down. I had everything planned out, and boop. And then I'll go back and, I'll start reading through. Like, I changed the point of view from first to third for part of it. And so I have to go back and make sure I don't have any embarrassing things like we instead of they, and like little nitpicky stuff that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Once that's done, I go back and I'll read for characters. I'm like, hey, do all the characters make sense? Are they genuine? Is the dialogue right? Do they have distinct voices? Are they actual characters with motivation as opposed to just caricatures of like, oh, this, Kevin could be like any generic, bad guy. And like, I need to make him more of a, right. And then I'll go back and read for plot. And the plot is mostly just the mechanics of it. Like, hey, are there continuity issues? Did I say this happened before they had been exposed to that? Because sometimes the planning goes a little spaghetti.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'll go back through and I'll just look at the language and how it reads. I'll do a lot of out loud reading, and that really tightens things up. I'll find all the different places where instead of saying like the door of the room, you say the room's door, and it just slides off the tongue a little faster, a little easier. So.
I really like how you're talking about how you go through and how you revise, because even when I'm doing like making marketing material and like making my paragraphs of marketing material, I kind of do the same process. Like, you have to read through it more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times to make sure everything makes sense, like is cohesive. Like, yeah. So it's really fun to hear how you kind of take the time to do it yourself before you even send it off to your publisher.
Absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, the next step before it goes to actual publishing is I send it to the beta readers. And they are the carefully curated stable of very mean and honest people that know what they're talking about. And so they get to come back with me, and hey, this character's motivation here doesn't make any sense. Why did they do this in this scene? Or like, hey, this is out of cool. Character. Like, I didn't like this at all. And it's like, it's fun because you get into the preferences and you have to really kind of do almost a psychology study on folks and be like, hey, are you my target audience? Like, what is your background? What is your preferences? Because one person may be like, God, I really hated all of this angsty nonsense where we were listening to them talk about their feelings, and it was just, ugh. And the other person is like, oh, that was great. It really heightened the drama for me. And I felt so connected to that. And like, I could empathize with them. So it's like, okay, where's the middle ground here? Like,
So is there a Facebook group or like a forum group of beta readers that you can tap into before you select basically like your jury?
So there's a lot of writers and authors Facebook groups. There's folks that are like, we're going to teach you how to run this as a business. That's like 20 books to 50K is like the well-known one there. But there's also just like Writers and Authors United, like Writers for Writers Marketing, like there's all kinds of stuff. I have managed to run into the folks that I have in my beta reader pool through, honestly, a lot of through the pre-sales marketing in my first book, and just folks that maybe took a little more time, but they came back with, you know, a really solid, like, here's what I think of what you've got. I was like, oh, wow, okay, you're going in the going over here in this pile. And then honestly, it's people who are willing to do it, because, you know, I'm never going to turn down somebody who wants to beta read the book. Some authors are like, oh, you know, you can't let it get out too far, because then, you know, people will know what's going to happen and you'll lose out on sales. And I'm like, well, we got to start selling some books before I'm going to worry about sales.
Yeah.
So the other piece that I'm just really excited to be a part of is I made enough on this first novel to be considered a professional science fiction writer. And so I got into the Science Fiction Writers of America, the SFWA.
Nice, congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, it's been great. They have forums and like support from other authors, and, you know, reading lists for like the nebulas and all the awards and everything like that. So it's been pretty cool.
Awesome.
Wow, that is exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Did you think when you were a kid that was going to be where you're at?
Not
a professional sci-fi writer?
Nope. No. I did write my first, like, I would say, complete story in high school, but no, I was always like, oh, I'm going to go be a pilot, because that's what I want to do. I saw the air show when I was 4, and therefore I'm going to be a pilot. But that never included getting to this point at all. So
that's sweet. And you've got many more books in this series. So the professional, 4 more?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was that a sneak peek for? I felt the hesitation, like you don't want to let the cat out of the bag.
No, it's good. I mean, the more I say it out loud, the more now I have to write those books. So it's kind of like the the promises made in public are often the ones that are kept.
Yep. All right, so we got 4 more. All right,
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see them. And when do they hit? You said you could buy it online first, but that's your first book, correct?
Yeah, so the first one is out if you're an e-reader person. It's been out since December, but the paperback, you can get it on Amazon right now, or you can buy it from your local bookstore tomorrow. You can also buy it direct from my website. I got my Square e-commerce like integration set up, which was another project that I did this last week.
Okay.
So
nice.
And you can get a signed first edition there. I do like custom or bookmarks, like all that stuff. So
very cool.
Well, we'll make sure to put your e-commerce in the show notes,
nice.
So people can jump on and grab those.
Perfect.
And while you were the Data 3 writing your second book, you were also alluding to doing some home remodeling.
Yes.
What was that about? You said it was in your attic. You're doing electrical and plumbing.
Yeah. So we bought this house, and to kind of cage just a little bit of the background, faster, funnier. I live in a place where the housing market has increased massively over the last 2 years, which narrows it down to anywhere in the continental US. But
right.
Literally, we had a few investment properties that, because we get stationed here occasionally, like we kind of go through, and like my wife had one property from before we even knew each other that she bought. And then we had another property that we almost lived in while we were here. And then we got orders. So it was like, yeah, wave off. And we actually wound up having to sell those 2 properties to buy in, because we didn't want to be leveraged like so much, to the tune of like over $1 million in debt at that point.
Yeah.
Like, we can't, no, we're not doing that. So we bought the house that was available in the neighborhood, that was a place where we might live, and it needed a lot of work. It was in 92 construction, and I think probably nothing had been done since 94. popcorn on the ceilings, like the whole 9 yards. So I took about a week before we moved in, and I parked the camper in the driveway and just kind of lived out of that, just running off the batteries. And I hired some guys to scrape the ceiling. As you can tell, there's no longer popcorn,
Yeah.
because if you're going to scrape a ceiling, don't have somebody else do it. Like,
Yes.
it's just murder. And then they did tile
And
throughout.
there's a lot of asbestos in that stuff.
There
the
can
old
be, for
popcorn.
sure. Oh yeah.
So if you ever are going to scrape it, just for the viewers, either get it tested if you want to be the weekend warrior and do it, get it tested, because that will cause some bad side effects.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, just contract it out and they'll clean it up for you and start over. It's worth it.
Anything in the 70s or 80s, like high probability there's asbestos in it, but like always get it tested. Luckily,
flap over
nobody.
ours.
There you go. That's another option.
Yep.
Cover it up.
Just do another ceiling.
Exactly.
Luckily, nobody had painted ours, because if somebody has painted your popcorn ceiling after the fact, then it becomes a whole different nightmare.
Yeah.
But
really? I had no idea.
Oh yeah, because then you're dealing with like paint impregnated plaster over styrofoam beads, and yeah, not good.
Feel you with like getting texture off of walls though. I literally just finished skim coating my entire living room, 2 bedrooms, and hallway of my house. So now you can see my nicely new painted and trimmed out house as well.
It looks very nice.
Thank you. I know, I'm very proud. So finish your story. Let's hear about your.
Okay. So this weekend, yeah. So I had the floors and ceilings, hired that out, and then I painted the ceilings. I painted all the walls myself. I ended up buying a set of drywall stilts so I could cut in the ceiling wall by hand, like myself. That way I didn't have to move a ladder around.
My gosh,
and I had this whole thing. I had the whole thing done in, I want to say like 4 days from start to finish. So it was a project.
You're like Superman. Holy cow.
It was more doable because I took the time off, and my wife, who's amazing, kept the kids back up at our old house. And so I literally would get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning because the birds were really loud. And then I would work until like midnight, and occasionally like stop for food. I got too hungry and normal stuff. So I ended up doing all the painting. I built a built-in bookshelf on one wall of the living room because they had a like the prefab cabinetry that you can buy, like just boxes. They just stuck that against one wall and put like a Formica countertop on it in the living room. And I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So we pulled that out, and underneath that was carpet, and they had done the tile up to the edge of the carpet, but they hadn't picked those boxes up to like tile underneath them. So
okay.
Yeah, so there was this like straight down to the slab after I pulled the carpet out, and then like tile. What do I do with this? So I ended up having to match the tile. I cut little pieces of it off and like shoved them under there and like put them in. So there was like, just don't look too closely. It's fine.
Yeah.
But the bookshelf turned out pretty well. So that's built in. It's got a nice little cutout for the TV. And then the good thing is the bones of the house were pretty solid. So I didn't need to do any like knocking down walls or remodeling anything like that. I did do the kitchen, but I did not have to do new boxes in the kitchen. I just pulled the cabinet doors off. I sanded the boxes as they were and painted them. And then I did, I bought all new cabinet doors from like one of the online vendors, and I had them like shipped to me like paint ready, because like I hate finishing, but I didn't want to spend, it was like, I think it was like almost double to have them just paint them. And so like my big takeaway from that project was if you don't like finishing, pay somebody else to do it.
Yeah. That's exactly.
I had the garage shut down for like 2 straight weeks, plastic over everything. I had a little like air filter and like sawhorses set up, and my paint sprayer. I did like 3 coats of primer on everything, 2 coats of paint. it still has a little bit of orange peel finish on if you get too close, but I used a nice like a satin finish as opposed to like an eggshell or something like that, and so it turned out okay. I think it looks nice. If you look really closely, obviously you'll be like, oh yeah, that's painted.
No,
But,
I totally get it. I like, so painting, my husband and I, we hate painting, like absolutely despise it. Like we can't cut in to save our life. So we finally were like, we saved so much money by having me do the skim coating that he's like, yep, we're hiring a painter. Hands down, the best decision I have ever made in my entire life. Because I was like, watching them and I was like, you guys are really good. I am not that good. So
the skill is good and their speed is good.
yes, they got my whole house done in 3 days, 2 days. I'm like, no way. That would take me a month.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I always tell, because there's a couple of clients that we take on and like they want to GC the project. So they get the orders, they pick it up, and basically it's just hours for us. But they still bounce questions off because obviously this might be their first basement that they're doing. And obviously those people are usually the ones that are trying to like, okay, we're going to try and save $1 here and there. And I always tell them, like, if you want to save a big amount, is UGC it. You have to worry about ordering and getting supplies. And if you can take that off my plate, you'll probably save a lot of money.
That's what I do every time.
They always, what's up?
That's what I do every time. I do that every time we have a project because I'm just like, it's just ordering and managing.
Yeah. And like they tell me like where can we cut or where can we save some money? In painting and texturing, I always tell them like, just pay for it. Get a professional in and pay for it. It's your finished look.
Yes.
So when you walk down the steps, that's what you're seeing.
Exactly right.
And mudding, I would, as much as people want to do it themselves, if you haven't mudded before, hire it out.
Yep.
It's gonna save you 3 weeks of time, and when you go downstairs, you're gonna actually enjoy your walls rather than seeing this big seam running through this like 30-foot wall.
Exactly.
Every time. So I agree. You were doing electrical, correct? And what else are you doing up there?
And plumbing.
So the other piece of this was like none of the fixtures had been updated in a long time. Like I will, because I don't want to put anybody off their lunch, I will not show you the fan that I pulled out of the bathroom and like how disgusting it was. Like it was real, real. So yeah, I've done new light fixtures in 3 of the bathrooms, and I've just been using those flat LED like discs that you can get now off of Amazon. They're like highly recommend
the Wafer Lights.
Yeah,
the Wafer Lights,
because it comes with a ballast and a converter and everything.
Wait, what is it? What
They're called Wafer Lights. They're, you know, the can lights that you see that have like the big housing that go up into your floor joist. So they have Wafer Lights now that look like little LED discs, and they've got 2 fins on the top. So you push the fins up and you put it up into the hole of the drywall, and as soon as you let go, it grabs the top and then holds it up on the drywall. And there's a converter right on it, so you can tap your line into that.
Gotcha.
And these lights, and you can go from like different lumen selections. So you can make them more yellow. You can make them Sane Asylum white. I recommend them for everybody doing a remodel because you get the can light look for almost like 2/3 of the price.
Oh, less than that. I mean, I got a box of like 20 of those things for, I want to say $100.
So you still need to do in the ceiling, right?
So all you do is cut your hole in the ceiling, and if you have like, obviously you have to have your wire available, and then you hot, neutral, and ground, and it's all right there in the box, and it goes back in. They're all like wet area rated, most of them are, so just look for that. But the cool thing about those is you can put them into like 3 inches of headspace. So if you have a basement you're doing, you don't have to have this massive amount of room in the ceiling to get candlelight look. Yeah,
there's a lot of benefits. The ceiling height was one.
I might look into that for my house because we have no can lights anywhere, and that's all we want.
Yeah, and like you were saying, the headroom is nice. They are that water concealed, so that's nice. the converter whip. So off of the box that you have to put your floor joist, the whip is usually about 12 inches, which means that I can place the actual light in the center of my room or wherever I want it in my room, rather than having to put it up in between a floor joist, and that's just the room you get. So you can move them around to wherever you want, which was super nice. Yeah, I recommend them. If you haven't found them yet, go look for them. And they're at like every big box retailer.
Yeah, and I mean, I got mine off of Amazon because I was like, I just want everything to show up. I don't have to make a million trips to one of those stores.
Yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend that. So I did new light fixtures. I did new exhaust fans, and the one, like, just remove and replace is pretty simple. Honestly, just like, it's got the line going into it already. Just make sure that's dead. So for anybody who's listening, hire an electrician. Just throwing that out there. It's probably worth it. However, if you would like to, for informational purposes only, do this yourself, you cannot do this without a non-contact voltage tester, like, flat out.
Yeah.
You have to have one of those because it's a safety thing. Even if you've got the light on, you go turn it off at the breaker and the light's no longer on. You're like, okay, I found the circuit. But like, you don't know in old work, especially with walls that are already closed up, like what other lines are on different circuits and is this the right one and everything. So anytime I'm doing anything, before I touch anything, I take my little tester out and I hold it on there. And if it beeps at me, I'm like, okay, that's hot. I need to go find another breaker to pull. So but once you've done that, it's pretty straightforward. Like, the remove and replace, because it's 3 wires, they're already up there, they were already hooked into the last fan you had. So you just pull the last fan out, make sure your hole in the drywall is big enough, and then put the new one in and put the little wire nuts back on there, cover everything up, make sure it's inside a junction box if it's in the attic to code. And then you're done.
And when I was starting on electrical, just another tip, when I was starting on electrical and it was all new to me, doing the replace part, I would take the phone and take pictures, right? What did it look like as I took it apart? How did the wires connect? Took a picture of that, so that when I go put the new unit in, it was like, all right, now make this look like that. And I mean, pretty self-explanatory at that part.
That's definitely a good idea. And the thing that took me so long this last weekend, which why I was crawling around doing all kinds of stuff, was the fan that I bought to replace the old one. The old one was a very basic, like, it is on or it is off. This one has a light fixture associated with it, as well as a nightlight function, and then the fan, like the motor. And what we wanted to do was put them on different switches so that I could turn the light on or the night light. And then I wanted to put the fan on a rheostat so I could have it on like max or less than max if needed. Because we live in Florida, sometimes like the humidity is around for a while. And so I basically ended up taking one circuit that was the main room overhead lights, and then I tapped my light circuit off the fan light into that so that it was attached to the same switch for the same room. And then I had the box on the wall that was the old fan on off. And like, I don't know like how they wired this thing, but for some reason it was dependent on having the switch to the room light on. And then you could turn the fan on or off. So that circuit was only hot if the main room overhead light circuit was on. So I'm like, well, that's not useful. Like, what if I want to have the fan on and the light off? Like, what now? So I went in and had to find a different circuit to tie that into, because I tried to do it straight in and I was getting hot on both sides, even with the switches that I had installed off, because I took it from a 1-gang to a 2-gang box. And it was like, okay, we're not trying to chase this dragon for the rest of the day. We're gonna go up there, we're gonna take the hot line in. So I found the line into that box, and I went back and I cut it and I capped it where it came in so that it was like, it's fine. And then I took that hot line in and I found a different circuit, which ended up being the wall outlets for this room. So that's the bathroom door behind me. So the fan function and the nightlight is now on the circuit in this room that is just the wall outlets. Because like, there's hardly ever any amperage draw on the wall outlets. I'm not running, wood shop in here or anything like that. And those two are only going to be drawn at most like 6 or 7 watts, even if both of those are on.
Mhm.
So I felt good about that.
Yeah. Where did you learn to do all this electrical?
So YouTube mostly.
Oh, I love YouTube University.
It's great. There's a Canadian guy who does like remodel stuff constantly. I cannot remember his name right now, but you can dive down the rabbit hole of his channel, and he'll take you from like doing siding, like all the way to like, oh yeah, and this is how you cut out a wall and make a window. Now there's a window here where there wasn't
Yeah.
before.
It's not Essential Craftsman. Essential Craftsman is another YouTube channel. He literally makes a series where he buys this plot of land. So he walks you through what went into buying the land, and then what goes into zoning, and then what goes into excavating, what goes into foundation. He builds the whole house and does a YouTube series on it, all the way to finish work. It's
awesome.
That's crazy.
Such good quality. Yeah, if I'm doing remodel and they've got questions, I send everybody that thing, and I'm like, all right, watch this video because this is what I'm talking about, so they can kind of get up to speed with what. Because again, we do these all the time, and I'll spit words out, and they're like, yeah, can you repeat all of that again? And I'm like, okay,
here's your homework.
Yeah, watch this video, you'll understand. At least to the bare minimum that you could stay in a conversation, because again, they don't want to be the experts. They've got their full-time jobs, their families, but just to be able to get to like the bare minimum of understanding what's going on in your own asset, here's a video.
Yeah.
But I think I know that Canadian guy that you're talking about. I've watched his soffit and siding videos many times as I was starting, because the first few projects were trying to patch vinyl siding in with old siding. So to find out his tips and tricks, and yeah, he was YouTube University. I live by it.
It's good. I did take several. So like my undergrad was in engineering too. So like I can read a circuit diagram, and I came in with that knowledge. I guess that's not to say nobody can learn that, but I kind of had a little bit of a leg up there. We did some project management type stuff there as well, and then I felt really well prepared, honestly, to GC my own work here, because I do have a master's in operations management. So
makes sense.
Building a Gantt chart and forward and backward paths and critical path management and slack time and resources and all that stuff was something that I could kind of, oh look, that is useful master's. Let me go use that for my own one-off project, So
yeah, but that's cool. Taking the resources from other past experiences.
That's key.
That's why you pay for it.
For sure. I mean, so if I were to look at all of the project lines I had going, I had a full kitchen remodel, including countertops and plumbing and other stuff. I had the bathrooms that we did, cabinets throughout, floors, walls, and ceilings. And then outside the house, it needed a new roof because the roof was so old it was uninsurable. So yeah, that was a project and a half. So we ended up
complete rip-off, not just shingles.
Oh well, so they had to take it down to inspect the decking, and I'm glad they did, because there was a lot of water damage around the chimney.
Yeah,
and you could see it inside the house. And I found this out later that they had water damage in the house, and they took the insurance money and bought some tile for the hallways. So long story short.
Okay. Not fix the problem, but make it easier to clean up.
I guess something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so there was a lot of water damage around the chimney. So they pulled all that decking out, replaced it with new decking, got the nail off up to code, all the stuff that you'd need, especially because we live in a hurricane prone area. So like Miami-Dade codes and insurance is huge. It takes your insurance from like $15,000 a year down to like $4 or $5 depending. So you gotta have that done. And then we did a metal roof this time. We didn't do shingles.
Ooh, I want a metal roof.
So I learned all about metal roofs. And again, if you're going to be the GC of your own project, just be prepared to do a lot of reading.
A lot of reading.
Oh man, if you want to know about PVDF coating versus some of the other coatings you can get out there, what's the difference between coil coating and on-roof coating, standing seam versus through fastener, like these are all decisions that need to be made.
Yeah.
The contractor is going to do whatever you ask them to do, so like you better ask them to do the right thing.
Right. So that's a good way to put it. If you're going to GC, just get ready to read.
Yeah.
Bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, we came up on our hour, and I feel like Natasha, you can't even ask your question because he just blew your question out of the water.
Yep, he did. So, well, it sounds like we're gonna have to have you on yet again to tell us about your next book and your next things and your everything else that's gonna happen.
I am happy to, and this has been a good time. We can talk about aliens and home renovation all day long. I'm ready.
I'm ready to hear about how you incorporate aliens into this next book. Just throwing an idea out there. I'm not saying they have to be green. I'm not saying they have to be 3 feet.
What is an alien?
A foreign species that in your book they've never seen before.
So maybe it doesn't live on Earth. That's my only definition of an alien.
But in his book, they don't live on Earth. They live on Olsen.
They don't live on that planet.
Commune. Right.
There's lots of different planets.
In general, Marcus.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the other thing is you get to play with the idea of like, what is alien and what does that word even mean? So I get what you're saying though, Marcus, don't worry. There are life forms from other planets already in the second book.
Perfect.
I'll just leave it at that. If you really want, honestly, the prologue from the first book might be right up your alley if you're looking for something that's real, like weird and out there. So I got a lot of feedback on that. Like, what is this? Just keep reading. It'll make sense. It'll be fine.
It will make sense. Well, perfect. Well, we'll make sure to get the link to your Square online marketplace. Put that out there. We'll link it. You said it's on Amazon, the paperback?
Yeah. Paperback's on Amazon. And honestly, the getting to the Square store, if you just go to my website and you click books, and there should be buttons galore there, as well as some info on the pre-order for the next book that's coming out, publishing in October. So if you want to get your signed hardback first edition in September, that's the word to go.
Perfect. And I guess you're taking applications for beta readers.
Oh yeah, always.
So if you are curious and want to get into that, I think we have your contact information that we'll throw in there as well. So I'll have people reach out to you as well.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, keep writing, keep doing your home remodels. We'll check in to see what's going on with the release of the second book once that's out.
Sounds good.
All righty. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks again for all your time. More alien NFT home remodeling talks to come.
All right. Sounds good.
I'll make sure to bring my pot next time.
Exactly.
You need a big bag.
Bye, guys.
Exactly. All right. Have a good weekend out there. Talk to you soon.
Bye.